Rich woman humiliates a beggar. When she learns who he really is, her world shatters. Emma Hale strode confidently down the busy city street, her high heels clicking rhythmically on the sidewalk. She exuded an aura of power and superiority, her designer clothes and flawless makeup setting her apart from the masses around her. As the CEO of Hale Industries, one of the most influential companies in the city, Emma was used to getting whatever she wanted. As she made her way to an important business meeting, a disheveled man sitting against a building caught her eye. His clothes were tattered and his hair matted. He held out a tin cup, silently asking for spare change from passers-by. Emma's lip curled in disdain. She detested beggars and considered them a blight on society. Drawing closer, she stopped in front of the man and fixed him with an icy glare. "Why don't you get a job instead of harassing hard-working people for their money?" she sneered loudly, wanting others to overhear. "You're pathetic." The man lifted his head slowly. Calm blue eyes flecked with gray met hers steadily. "I'm sorry to trouble you, ma'am," he replied in a soft but dignified voice. Something about his eyes and demeanor unsettled Emma, but she brushed it aside. With a haughty toss of her sleek auburn hair, she continued on, never giving the beggar a second thought. Little did she know that this chance encounter would soon turn her privileged life upside down. Michael watched the rude woman disappear into the crowd, her cruel words still stinging. He was used to being ignored or occasionally pitied, but seldom subjected to such blatant scorn. If only she knew the truth about who he really was. Reaching into his jacket, he pulled out a worn photograph. It showed a younger version of himself, clean-shaven and smartly dressed, with his arm around another smiling man. Burton Smith, his best friend since childhood and one of the city's most renowned philanthropists. 3 years ago, Michael had it all: the loving family, a successful career as an investment banker, a beautiful home. But greed had been his downfall. Lured into a risky scheme by a persuasive co-worker, he ended up losing millions for his clients, including Burton. Though it had been his partner's idea, Michael took the fall to shield his friend. Fired and disgraced, he lost everything and became estranged from those he cared about most, even his own brother. Only Burton knew the full story. He had urged Michael to reveal the truth, promising to stand by him, but Michael couldn't bring himself to tarnish Burton's sterling reputation. He chose instead to silently bear the weight of guilt and failure. But now Burton was reaching out after years of silence, asking to meet tonight at their old favorite pub. Did he want to make amends? Help Michael rebuild his shattered life? Rekindle their friendship? Michael desperately hoped so. Taking a deep breath, he hauled himself to his feet, pocketed the photo, and slowly walked away to find a quiet place to wait out the hours until his meeting with destiny. Precisely at 7 p.m., Emma glided into Chez Michel, the most exclusive French restaurant in the city. Chantal Bardot, editor-in-chief of Couture magazine, was already seated at a prime table. Emma put on her most dazzling smile as she approached. Landing a feature in couture would take Hale Industries to new heights. "Chantal, darling, so wonderful to see you," Emma air-kissed the other woman's cheeks before taking a seat. As they chatted over appetizers and wine, Emma couldn't help noticing a lively group of people at a nearby table hanging on every word of a striking man with piercing blue eyes. With a jolt, she recognized Burton Smith, whose generous philanthropy was legendary. "He's even more charismatic in person," Chantal remarked, following Emma's gaze. "No wonder he inspires such devotion. I heard he's planning to turn the old Wilson factory into a community center for the homeless." Emma frowned slightly. Why would someone waste their time and money on the undeserving poor? Still, she had to admit Burton possessed an undeniable magnetism. Perhaps she could find a way to harness it for her own benefit. Across town, Michael entered the cozy pub, heart pounding. He immediately spotted Burton waving to him from a corner booth. Throat tight with emotion, he wound his way past the other patrons, scarcely believing this reunion was real. The two men embraced, holding tight. "I've missed you, brother," Burton said hoarsely. "I'm so sorry for everything you've been through." Over beers, Burton revealed the true reason for his recent silence. He'd been quietly working to uncover evidence that would clear Michael's name. With his tech skills, he'd managed to recover deleted emails from his former colleague, proving the man had masterminded the scheme and set Michael up to take the blame. With this, we can expose the truth and start rebuilding your life, Burton said, eyes shining with fierce determination. The question is, are you ready to fight back against those who wronged you? Tears stung Michael's eyes as an unfamiliar feeling built in his chest, hope. Yes, he replied firmly. It's taken me hitting rock bottom to see what truly matters. I'm ready to clear my name and make a difference in this world, no matter how hard some may try to stop me. He thought fleetingly of the sneering woman from earlier. The coming battle would likely mean crossing paths with people like her. But with Burton by his side, he knew nothing could stand in their way. The next morning, the story broke. Disgraced banker Michael Weston had proof of his innocence and was going public. Emma nearly choked on her latte as she watched the TV interview. Michael's face, no longer hidden by a shaggy beard, seemed so familiar. With growing horror, she realized it was the same face she'd scorned on the street the previous day. Closing her eyes, she willed herself to breathe normally. So she'd unknowingly insulted one of the city's most promising power players. This complicated her plans, but she could handle it. When life handed you lemons, you made lemonade, or in her case, you schemed to turn the situation to your advantage. By midday, the first phase of her plan was in motion. She'd let slip to a well-placed gossip columnist how thrilled she was that Mr. Weston was finally getting justice, hinting that Hale Industries may even support his causes in the future. His name linked with her brand would surely boost the company's image. At the office, her executive assistant Lance tentatively knocked on her door. "Miss Hale, a Mr. Michael Weston is here to see you." Emma smiled. Like a moth to a flame. Men in power were so predictable. She rose gracefully as Michael entered, looking every inch the polished professional in an impeccable suit. "Mr. Weston, what an unexpected pleasure," she greeted him with practiced warmth. But as his eyes locked on hers, she faltered. Behind the civilized veneer, Emma saw banked anger and a glint of ruthless determination. "Unexpected? I rather doubt that," Michael replied coolly, taking a seat without being asked. "Did you really think I wouldn't remember you? That I'd let you use my story to make yourself look good after how you treated me? This lemonade you're peddling is about to become very sour." Emma gaped at him, for once at a loss for words. She grossly underestimated her adversary. And from the set of his jaw, she had a sinking feeling their battle was just beginning. It started with a series of unflattering articles questioning the safety of Hale Industries' flagship beauty products. Furiously investigating, Emma discovered that one of the uncredited sources looked suspiciously like Burton Smith's private pilot and mechanic. Next, a planned factory expansion stalled due to anonymous complaints filed with the city zoning board. Then a lucrative deal with an overseas distributor fell through without explanation. Each setback on its own seemed like bad luck. But 3 in a row? This had Michael's fingerprints all over it. Frustrated, Emma threw herself into planning the annual Hale Industries charity auction, a perfect opportunity to repair her tarnished image. She'd show Michael and that meddling partner of his that she wouldn't be intimidated or undermined. Not in her city. Across town, in his newly reclaimed penthouse, Michael reviewed the latest reports from his and Burton's carefully selected team of lawyers, cybersecurity experts, and financial analysts. Bit by bit, they were chipping away at Emma's empire, exposing structural weaknesses ripe for exploiting. It was only a matter of time before the woman who had once thought herself invincible would be on her knees. The trick, Michael mused, was ensuring her downfall didn't take too many innocent employees and small investors down with her. His vendetta was personal, not indiscriminate. As if reading his mind, Burton looked up from a spreadsheet, his normally cheerful face somber. "We have to be smart about this, Mike. If we go too far, we risk becoming no better than the very people we're fighting against." Michael nodded slowly. The old him would have relished destroying Emma at all costs. But the man he was today, forged by pain and humility, understood that true victory wouldn't come from perpetuating a cycle of cruelty. They had to find another way to make her see the error of her ways. The night of the Hale charity auction arrived in a blaze of glitter and flashbulbs. The city's A-list turned out in force, vying for the favored position in front of the cameras. Emma circulated graciously among her guests, a regal figure in a stunning scarlet couture gown. If her smile looked a trifle brittle at times, her confident demeanor never slipped. She was about to signal the auctioneer to open the bidding when a disturbance at the entrance caught her attention. Her eyes widened as Michael swept in, impeccably tuxedoed and escorting one of the most famous actresses in the world. Chantal Bardot appeared seemingly out of nowhere, her reporter's instincts sensing a juicy story. "Michael, darling, we're so thrilled you could make it. Rumor has it you're going to make a very special announcement tonight?" Michael flashed a devastating smile. "It's a surprise, but I promise it will be a game changer. After all, isn't that what tonight is all about? Changing lives for the better?" Emma felt sick, certain she knew precisely what Michael intended to announce: a new charitable partnership between his foundation and Hale Industries, forcing her to work alongside him and Burton. These people had no idea that Michael Weston's noble words masked a calculating scheme to infiltrate her company and orchestrate a hostile takeover under the guise of philanthropy. As if drawn by her furious gaze, Michael's eyes met Emma's across the room. Raising one eyebrow slightly, he lifted his glass to her in mocking salute before turning away dismissively. Seething, Emma realized two could play at that game. Michael might think he held all the cards, but she had some aces up her couture sleeves. This wasn't over until she said it was. The audience listened in rapt attention as Burton Smith took the stage to introduce his long-lost friend. He spoke of Michael's courage in facing adversity, his unwavering integrity, and his determination to use his second chance to lift up others. "It is my honor to introduce the new executive director of Second Chance Foundation, Michael Weston." The ballroom erupted in applause as Michael strode onto the stage, shaking hands with Burton. Emma watched, a brittle smile plastered on her face. The trap was set. "Thank you, everyone," Michael began, his voice confident. "As my first act in this new role, I'd like to announce an exciting collaboration between the Second Chance Foundation and a visionary local company. But rather than steal their thunder, I'll let them share the details." Emma rose, her floor-length crimson gown gliding around her as she ascended the steps. This was her moment. She'd announced the partnership, basking in the inevitable accolades, then blindside Michael with the revelation of his hidden agenda. Reaching the podium, she favored the crowd with a dazzling smile. "On behalf of Hale Industries, I'm thrilled to share that we will be working closely with Second Chance to transform the very community where our company began, Grayson Heights." Murmurs rippled through the audience. Grayson Heights was an impoverished neighborhood that most of the city's elite preferred to ignore. Undaunted, Emma continued. "But before I talk about our plans, I think it's important to understand the man behind them. The real Michael Weston. You see." Her voice trailed off as she glanced at Michael. His blue eyes burned into hers, no longer angry, but sad and resigned. She saw a man who'd already lost everything once and had made peace with losing it all again in service of a greater good. Looking around the room, she saw faces upturned, waiting to hear her next words. Words that would destroy a man's chance at redemption. Emma's worldview and Michael's locked in a battle of wills. She thought of the carefully gathered evidence in her purse that would paint Michael as a fraud. It would be so easy to crush him, to prove that she alone reigned supreme. So why was victory suddenly so hollow? Swallowing hard, Emma turned back to the microphone. "You see, a man who can fall from grace and find the strength not only to rise again, but to extend a hand to those still in the darkness, is exactly the type of person I want to partner with to revitalize Grayson Heights. The Second Chance Foundation and Hale Industries invite you to join us in this important work. Together, we will show that everyone deserves a second chance." Applause thundered through the ballroom. Amidst the sea of faces, one stood out: Burton, beaming with fierce pride and gratitude. But it was the man next to her that Emma couldn't tear her gaze from as the standing ovation continued. Gone was the cold cynicism from Michael's eyes, replaced by something softer, something like understanding. Emma realized she now stood on a precipice. She could retreat to the familiar comfort of her wealth and power. Or she could take a leap of faith and embrace the opportunity to become someone new, someone better. Perhaps her next great venture wasn't conquering the corporate world, but rather, conquering the part of herself that had sneered at a humble man on a city sidewalk not so long ago. In that moment, as camera flashes popped and hands reached out to clasp hers and Michael's, the queen of Hale Industries made a choice. She stepped forward into the unknown, determined to forge a new path. Over the next few months, Emma threw herself into bringing the Grayson Heights project to life. She and Michael made an oddly effective team, her fiscal savvy and business connections providing the resources to fuel his innovative ideas. At first wary of the wealthy interloper, residents slowly warmed to Emma as they saw her working late nights alongside them, often paint-smeared and disheveled. She in turn found herself humbled and inspired by their resilience. Through their stories, Emma gained a new perspective on privilege, realizing how much of her success was owed to luck and access rather than superiority. Burton joined them frequently, leading town hall brainstorming sessions and mediating disputes. His gentle wisdom and quirky humor made him an instant favorite, especially with the children. They adored helping him tend the gardens, learning under his patient tutelage how to coax new life from tired soil. As the neighborhood blossomed, a subtle shift took place within Emma too. The restlessness that had once consumed her eased. She looked forward to her weekends in the community, finding a bone-deep satisfaction in each tangible improvement her partnership with Michael and Burton yielded. Movie nights on the lawn. Block parties with live music and mouth-watering food. Spontaneous art shows put together by proud locals. The laughter of children splashing in the new fountain. This, Emma realized, was the symphony of hope. And she'd found its tempo matched the yearning within her soul far better than the brittle staccato of boardroom battles ever had. Standing together surveying their progress after a particularly successful festival, Michael turned to Emma. "Thank you," he said simply, voice rough. "For listening. For changing. For helping me keep a promise to people who got left behind by this city a long time ago." Emma blinked back, sudden tears. "I think they're the ones who saved us," she replied softly. "They helped me remember who I want to be." Michael looked at her for a long moment, searching her face. Then slowly, deliberately, he reached out and threaded his paint-streaked fingers through hers. Emma gazed down at their joined hands, struck by how right it felt. When she looked up again, his expression sent her heart stuttering against her ribs. Before either of them could speak, a delighted shout rang out. "They're holding hands." Finally. Startled, Emma and Michael turned to see Burton grinning at them, a mischievous twinkle in his eye. Around him, a group of community members, young and old, were also smiling knowingly. Busted, Michael stage whispered to Emma, his hand tightening around hers. She laughed, feeling lighter than she had in years. As the sun began to set over Grayson Heights, painting the sky in glorious streaks of orange and pink, Emma realized she was exactly where she was meant to be. And for the first time, she knew with bone-deep certainty that the best was yet to come. News of the Grayson Heights revitalization project's stunning success soon spread, drawing interest from investors, policymakers, and media nationwide. Emma found herself in high demand on the speaker circuit, sharing the story of the neighborhood's transformation and her own journey of growth. At first, she balked at bearing such personal details. But Michael and Burton encouraged her, insisting that her honesty could inspire others. Haltingly, she began to open up about her past, the relentless drive for dominance that left no room for empathy, the gaping emptiness no amount of wealth or status could fill. She spoke of the unexpected grace of second chances. How witnessing the residents' strength in adversity humbled her. The exquisite joy of working towards something larger than herself. Gradually, Emma's confidence grew, her words flowing more easily. After one particularly powerful speech, a young woman approached her, tears glistening on her cheeks. "I've been so angry," she whispered. "At the world, at myself. I didn't think I deserved a fresh start. But hearing your story, it gives me hope that I can change too." Emma embraced her, deeply moved. She finally understood this was her true calling. Not conquest, but connection. Shining a light so others could find their way out of the shadows. Back home, Burton decided to make the community center his primary focus, transitioning out of his role at Smith Enterprises. His niece Natalie, a rising star with a keen interest in social entrepreneurship, would take the reins. The news delighted Emma and Michael. They'd grown to cherish the thoughtful, compassionate man's steady presence in their lives. Impulsively, Emma hugged him. "You're going to be an amazing mentor to those kids," she said, throat tight. "They adore you." Burton ducked his head, bashful. "I just want to be useful," he demurred. "To leave things a bit better than I found them." "You already have," Michael assured, clasping his friend's shoulder. "More than you know." And so the trio remained the heart of Grayson Heights' ongoing metamorphosis, their bond of friendship and shared purpose growing ever stronger. As she watched Burton patiently guide a teenager in coaxing seedlings from the earth and Michael consult with a group of aspiring artists, Emma reflected that she'd gained something infinitely more precious than any accolade: a sense of meaning, connection, and home. As the project gained national attention, Emma found herself facing an unexpected challenge. The mayor, eager to capitalize on the buzz, began pressuring her to expand the Grayson model to other struggling neighborhoods at a breakneck pace. While the idea held merit, Emma feared rushing would undermine the careful community-driven approach at the heart of their success. When voicing her concerns failed to sway the mayor, she reluctantly turned to old tactics, wrangling backroom meetings and calling in favors to stall his public announcements. Michael noticed the toll the political maneuvering was taking. Emma's excitement dimmed, replaced by grim determination and too many late nights. Finally, he confronted her. "This isn't you anymore," he said gently. "Plotting, strong-arming, doing whatever it takes to win. You're better than that now. What choice do I have?" Emma snapped, exhausted. "If I don't play his game, the mayor will barrel ahead with or without me. Everything we've built will get steamrolled by his short-sighted greed." Michael frowned thoughtfully. "What if we change the game? Show the mayor that doing this the right way is in his best interest too?" Together, they hatched a plan. Emma reached out to her media contacts, inviting them to a showcase of Grayson's transformation. Meanwhile, Michael rallied the residents, encouraging them to share their journeys. On the appointed day, the neighborhood hummed with energy. Journalists and cameras mingled with proudly beaming locals, soaking in the vibrant murals, lush gardens, and hum of productive activity. At the heart of it all stood Emma, Michael, and Burton. They spoke passionately about the power of second chances, emphasizing that lasting change couldn't be rushed, but cultivated through respect, empathy, and cooperation. As faces around him absorbed this wisdom, the mayor began to understand true revitalization wasn't a race to rack up headlines, but a steady heartbeat of hope. In that moment, the path forward crystallized. Clasping hands with his former adversaries, the mayor stepped forward to announce a citywide initiative, the Grayson Promise. It would provide resources and support for grassroots renewal projects, guided by the hard-won lessons of this remarkable community. The Grayson Promise initiative expanded citywide to great acclaim. Emma, Michael, and Burton were in high demand to speak about their groundbreaking approach. At a keynote address, Emma's nerves flared until she caught Michael's encouraging gaze. Drawing strength from his presence, she spoke passionately about the power of compassion and second chances to transform communities. The audience was electrified. Emma realized this was her true calling. United with Michael in devotion to this purpose, she'd finally found the validation she once chased in all the wrong places. They dreamed of all the lives they'd touch, the communities they'd uplift. The future shimmered with promise. Back where her journey began, Emma walked hand in hand with Michael, their hearts united by understanding and commitment to helping others. "I was so blind before," Emma reflected. "Thank you for opening my eyes, even when I gave you every reason not to." You found the courage to change, Michael replied. Never doubt how extraordinary that is. They continued on, ready for their next chapter. Though challenges remained, the trio's unshakable bond and shared vision propelled the movement forward. Grayson's spark spread, uniting neighborhoods in renewed hope and purpose. Emma reflected on the profound truth that in lifting others, we cannot help but rise ourselves. This, a life enriched by love and meaning, was the success she'd spent so long chasing. She would cherish it always. Hand in hand, Emma and Michael stepped into a future bound only by the breadth of their dreams. A future where every heart knew the power of redemption and second chances. Brick by brick, they would build this brighter world. Together.